Hello, and welcome to the mentorDINO podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Rosier. I am an architect and founder of mentorDINO. Join me each week as I speak with amazing professionals in and around the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, as we are all part of a larger interconnected community. We discuss everything from career stories, lessons learned, and advice for others finding their own unique career path. Thank you to all of our current subscribers, and if you're new, welcome to the conversation. And if you like this episode, please do me a favor by hitting subscribe, like, or share it with a friend. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support them on their own unique career journey. On today's episode of the mentorDINO podcast, I would like to welcome Erin Fantozz, founder of EF Designs in Sandusky, Ohio. Thank you, Erin, for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you for having me join. I'm so excited to have a conversation about all the things.
All the things and everything you're doing.
Yes.
But I always like starting out with my loaded question, if you don't mind introducing yourself to my listeners to let them know a little bit about your experience and journey so far in your education and career.
Yeah, so I'll keep it short because it's been quite the journey. So I started at Kent State University here in Ohio in 2009, so right after high school, and I obtained my interior design degree. And I went into the field for about a year, and I was working at a manufacturing firm, very architecturally driven, and I've always had like this architectural like mindset, more engineering, not completely not creative side, but architecture and interior design are a little bit different. So went back to Kent then for my architecture degree. I did work for another firm at the time, and they were like, we want you to finish your degree. So after a cumulative of 8 years, I have two bachelors. I worked full time with a second bachelor as well. And from there, I have a wide range of variety of different types of building types and different projects. I have experience in healthcare. I have experience in commercial manufacturing, like you say, I've probably done it, residential. And from there, I had a little girl and I was working contract at the time, and I really enjoyed working contract. It gave me the flexibility of what I needed for being a new mom, living away from family at the time. And I unfortunately was in a situation to where the contract was no more. And I was kind of in this, oh my gosh, now what am I going to do? I have this 1.5-year old. I'm living in Sandusky, Ohio again at this time. And the opportunities here are very slim to none. And I knew at that time that I would have to make the commute to Cleveland. And again, being a single mom of a 1.5-year old, I'm like, this is going to suck up my time. And so, anyways, I did that for about a year. And I realized very quickly that, I love working in a firm. I love the different things that you're exposed to, the events, all of the like, I don't know, you just have a lot of mentors, right? Like a lot of mentors, a lot of things. And but ultimately, like my daughter was getting the wrath of me. Like I was leaving at 6 a.m., I was getting home at 6 p.m., I had minimal time, single mom, all that kind of stuff. And so I just decided that I need to create an opportunity for myself. I have always done side work on the side of, even when I was in college and working full time, I always had side jobs. I have always been that person that always is eager to learn more and to really put myself into situations that I'm challenging myself. So basically, what happened was I left my full time firm. They actually were one of my first clients, and they subcontracted me as 1099. And from there, I really just kind of started working for a bunch of individuals, and realized like, oh my gosh, there is a serious gap of production and just having freelancer assistance for firms, and then also like bottlenecked solo entrepreneurs. And from there, I just like had so much work that my business coach was like, Erin, you need to start delegating. And I was like, what do you mean? And like, I, I am not the one to want to start delegating. I think we all can attest to that. Like, no one likes to delegate. We all like to have our hands on like what we're doing. And I had hired my first subcontractor, and we just kept growing. So now we are a team of 7. We are all senior leveled individuals. And ironically, we are all women in the architecture firm or architectural world. And we support architectural firms, design build firms, solo interior designers, interior design firms on basically their production and Revit standards, anything that comes out of that. So it's been quite the journey. It just kind of happened. It wasn't planned, but now that it is a business, I have business coaches that kind of help me navigate the things that come with owning a business that I never equipped myself for when I was in college, like most of us. So, yes.
Yeah, it's always the business side since we're always so busy. And it's
Yep.
like there's never good enough time to like fit in. Like you could have stayed for the MBA and
Yep.
it's like, well, do I really want to stick around for the MBA? I had
Yeah.
a business minor and I'm still like, owning
Yep.
mentorDINO as a business. And like I still need help in
Mm.
understanding like what
Yeah.
things are and where I'm going.
Yeah.
So,
Definitely.
and so are you guys 7 all interior designers? Are you guys a mix of architects and interior designers?
So we are a mix. So we have a registered architect on our team. We have 2 individuals that are unlicensed architectural individuals that are going to be that are sitting for their exam, so they're working toward licensure. And then myself, I have the experience in both interior design and architecture, and then we also have a senior interior designer as well. So we're kind of like a wide mix, which is really nice because you kind of get that holistic approach, right?
Mhm.
We have architects that come to us that are like, wow, you guys have interior design, can we start including you in our proposals to have more services provided? And that's what they do, because it opens up their range too of being able to have other services to their clients when they have experienced interior designers on their team as well.
Yeah, it's a way to keep more under their contract,
Mhm.
but then what's nice about the 1099 and bringing in a group when you
Mhm.
need them is if your projects go up and down and there's ebb and flow,
Yeah.
it's not like you're hiring a bunch of professionals to then let them all go.
Right.
It's you can grow more intelligently as
Yeah.
a firm owner when you can bring in your team as you need for those peaks.
Yes, exactly. And that's kind of like what I found that is kind of happening is we have a client right now that they came to us and they just basically at the time hired me, right? Like it was just me at that time. And over the course of the last year, I have had to tell them, "Hey, I'm a team now." I show them the entire team that I have and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like this is exactly what we need." And I had a call with them and I was like, "How many projects do you guys have right now?" And they're like, "We have 35." And I was like, "Well, what's your normal capacity?" And they said 6. I was
Wow.
like, "What do you like?" I literally asked the question. I was like, "How are you supporting this?" They're like, "Oh, we'll just figure it out." And I was like, "Well, because they struggle finding those individuals that can come to the office.
Mhm.
They're in a very rural area, and like they try, like they're doing their outreach, doing all that kind of stuff, but they're just not getting any hits." And I was like, well, just so you know, like there is a team of us that if we need to scale to support for you, like that's something that we can do. We have a very, you know, um, collaborative approach internally of communication. So us all being remote, I mean, I have girls in California and Montana and Colorado. Like we're all in different time zones, but we communicate so well that our clients don't even like see how that operates. So we're still able to support them as if we were sitting in the cubicle next to them, just kind of at an arm's length away. So.
Yeah, and definitely COVID's really opened it up because I
Mhm.
know when I was at my first firm, we were at the time we had so many projects coming in, staffing wise, we were 14 people short. So we
Oh
could
my
have
gosh.
staffed 14 additional full-time employees for the workload,
Mhm.
and you couldn't find the professionals that you
Yeah.
needed. And they did bring in some other service to come in to help with
Mhm.
drafting work, but
I feel like you almost need to train firms how to deal with
Mhm.
1099s and other professionals that aren't maybe going in front of the client and doing the client meetings or maybe not in the office. But that was also pre-COVID
Yeah.
and we weren't as used to like jumping around. So it's like these three individuals came in and they kind of, get the reject seats. They don't have a desk. Like
Right.
they're kind of sitting in a conference room. So it was just this weird dynamic. But now that
Yeah.
you can be 100% remote and we're used to teams and calls and
Mhm.
communication in a different way, I think it opens up so many more opportunities for
It does,
architecture.
and I feel like it doesn't limit firms to just their region or just
Hmm.
like their city, you know? The nice thing about us is that, we all have experience in architecture firms, like the traditional experience. We know what works, what doesn't work, how to communicate. We're basically looking at projects two steps ahead because we have that expertise and that understanding of what's needed. We're not someone that just got out of school. We're not co-ops. We're not those that you also have to like kind of mentor and handhold along the way. It's more of like a complete handoff if they wish,
Hmm.
but I think to the same notion, it's like, yeah, we might be a service team, but it's not like we're the outsiders. Like we can literally act as part of your team. We do communicate with external consultants for some of our clients. Like we'll be on engineering team collaboration calls and everything like that. So really, it's like keeping a firm lean, but
Hmm.
still having the professional expertise without having the hand holding, the back and forth, or just per se drafting as well. So,
Yeah. So how do you, I guess since you've been on the contract side prior to having your
mhm.
own company and now, are there strategies that you use for your team so they feel more integrated to an architecture firm if they need
Yeah,
help?
so definitely. I like to look at us as kind of like a bridge of traditional and, the contract. So everyone that works with us, we are all subcontractors, to EF Designs. And really that is so that we get the tax write-offs, but we're still part of a group. And what's nice is like we have our own internal task management system. We utilize teams with internal and external. We have weekly meetings internally. Like we're women that like to collaborate and we're women that like to get things done. So like we're all just very into it. But when I was working contract, I was a part of a team at that time and I loved it. But the issues that I had with it was that I was still being treated as if I were an employee. I had to be
Hmm.
on in between 9 to 5. I had to put in 40 hours of work. At the time, my daughter was only 8 months old. I was like, this is not really giving me the freedom that I want. And so with us now, it's like, if one of the girls has to go pick up a child at school or whatever, they can do that and they don't feel like, oh my gosh, I have to hurry up and get back to the computer. We create a margin and a very collaborative approach of, when someone's in, when someone's out, but just being open communicated, like that's really all that it takes. And then as far as like with a traditional firm, I feel like you have to have those 40 hours in, right? Like
Yeah.
us, we're all billable. So it's billable time. If we have a low week, you have more time and more freedom, if we have a high week, everyone's like, hey, we can be hands on deck. Like it just creates this culture of like, you just get things done. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And you get it done efficiently and you get it done to the standard liking of our clients. So,
Yeah, because
yeah.
it's when those deadlines hit,
Yep.
everybody's got to ramp up in the industry.
Yep.
And I find the problem we have when we hit those mental breakdowns and people wanting to leave firms and getting burned out, it's when you don't have the ramp down time. So you
Hmm.
don't have a light week that it's like, okay, I can counterbalance that. Hey, we had a
Hmm.
big deadline we did a push for to make
Yeah.
sure it was done. And now I get a little bit less of a week that I can spend more time with my family to make up
Hmm.
that time. It's some
Yeah.
firms are just on that constant high because they don't have the staff to
Yeah.
get everything done. It's always
Yeah.
deadline after deadline.
Yeah. And that goes back to just like, boundaries and just like self-care, like that those are like so important. Like that's something that I tell our team is like take the walk. I am all about boundaries. Like I don't have email on my phone. We don't text each other. We don't anything. Everything is just in a very boundary setting because they have their families, I have my family, and like when your work. If you're not, then it's hands off, and
Mhm.
just having those boundaries I think is so important too with working remotely. So,
Yeah. And I know as myself being a new mom
yes.
with a 7-week-old, I know setting those boundaries are so important, but having these conversations, I didn't realize when I started my career that a 1099 contract position was even an option to be able to do. So
Mhm.
it's awesome that you've got 2 professionals that are still working through their license, because
Mhm.
when I graduated, I thought I had to be at an architecture firm. My
Mhm.
butt had to be in a seat 40
Yep.
hours a week, if not
Yes.
more, and show up.
Yeah.
So how have you found your work-life balance been being more on the 1099 side rather than being in a firm from a parent's perspective?
Yeah. I mean, I love it. When I was working in a firm, I was having to commute. And so I was spending 6 hours a week just to get to a job, right? 6 hours put back into being 1099. It looks like I'm cooking dinners. I'm going on walks during the day. I don't feel like my butt's glued in my seat. If I have to pick up hours in the middle of the night to meet a deadline or to meet something that I said I would do, I can do that. I feel like when you're working in a traditional firm, sometimes not every firm looks at those things you know, to the benefit. It's like they want you to be, utilization rate of 80%, which I get. But sometimes, what if the workload isn't there, and your utilization rate is much lower and you
Mhm.
feel like you're just sitting at the firm or sitting in your seat just for the sole sake of sitting in your seat. Like I have a family. I can put more time back into my household and into my personal life that I need to fill up my cup to be the best person, best business owner, best, mentor to those that I'm working with if I'm filling up my own cup versus just sitting at a desk for the sole sake of putting in 40 hours a week. So,
Yeah, or drive. I always find it crazy when it's you drive into the office and
yes.
then you're in 8 hours straight of meetings, and
Hmm.
you're already in meetings with people in different states.
Yes.
So it's not like you're having a meeting in person, everybody's there, the client's there. That is different and important to
Hmm.
be there and in person. But if everybody's calling in anyway, why are you killing
Right.
2 hours of your day in a car when I can't really talk to anybody in the office, and the only time
Right.
off maybe is a lunch break if I don't have a meeting during lunch?
Right. Yeah.
So,
I just think there's a lot of like limitations of when you are working, in a firm. I feel like there's just this culture that is just created and like I know some firms are trying to get away from it, but then there's some that during COVID they didn't have the full remote, they didn't want to encourage that, so they're actually behind the times because they're not forward leveraging of the more openness and more opportunities that are available to them because they don't even know how to communicate on a more virtual level. Like it's just kind of like you're stuck back here in 2010 when we're all moving forward to 2030 and it's going to be a whole different world.
yeah, and I think different priorities too for even
Mhm.
the graduates coming out. It's,
Yeah.
you've experienced being remote, that it's an
Mhm.
option, and maybe not everybody wants to be remote 100% of the time, but having that flexibility, especially as a
Yeah.
parent, if your kid's sick, if I can still get my job done effectively at home, that
Mhm.
gives me that flexibility. But if there's a day that if I can go in the office a couple days a week just to be around people, have a change of
Mhm.
scenery, do something else, having that flexibility in somebody's career is, I think, more helpful.
Yes, definitely. 100%. Yeah.
So where do you see EF designs going in the future? I know you've grown a lot unexpectedly.
Honestly, it's wild. I feel like I have like these wildest dreams of things. So right now we are fully virtual. So everyone on our team is virtual. A lot of our marketing is targeted towards like just anyone across the US. And I am the type of person that I'm like, I am not meant to be behind a computer screen all the time. Like, I am a people person. I am an extrovert. I like to build connection, all of that. And, working in Cleveland, Ohio for, 8, 9 years, like, I have a wide range of individuals that I have known, connected with, worked with. And I'm like, I feel like I'm limiting myself of not, going to them and saying, hey, here's what we provide. We're local to you, we're not someone in, across the seas or, like, we can be completely local. I can be the face of that. So I personally see EF Designs being a firm that, we're not an interior design firm, we're not an architectural firm. We are a production firm that, as we work with these larger architectural firms, they have a project manager or a project executive kind of heading this. Let's say they want to explore a new vertical market, and we have such a wide range of experience that they could be like, hey, let's bring in EF Designs, and they can like do the production and be in calls, and they can learn and grow too as we explore this new vertical market without having to hire internally if it goes dead, right? I also see us moving into a direction where we have a local team that, isn't everyone across the US, but maybe there's a local team in Cleveland that, EF Designs has our own co-working place that we can be boots on the ground for firms in that local area. And maybe there's just a bunch of different areas around the United States like that. I mean, I think what we have here is very unique. We are not, just drafters. We are like completely strategic planning of how we can work with another firm. And with having that experience, I think that leverages us very well. And we know and understand and live the day to day of the IBC and the IRC and the code. And when it gets to on all of that, so I feel like there's a lot of potential here. And I don't know, but I mean, there's dreams to be had. So we'll just see where it takes us.
Yeah. And so out of your clients now, is your team more taking running with projects, or
Mhm.
are you guys more getting integrated with project teams?
So it's a little bit of both. We have a couple of firms that we're working with that, they'll have their SD phase pretty much completed, and they'll hand it over to us and be like, okay, we need permit. Can you coordinate with our electrical engineers, our mechanical engineers, and can you work together to basically push this forward? Because what's happening is the project architects and the project managers, they're so bottlenecked up and they don't have that team to support. Where with us, like, they're giving us that leverage to be like, hey, we know that you know your stuff. Can you just coordinate this and get this done for us so that we can go out to the site, have our client meetings, do all these things? But then we also have our clients who are like, hey, I love what we do. I know what we do, but I'm not technical. Like, we are more design oriented. Can you take our designs and put together construction documentation sets for us? So it's a little bit of both. But I think in both situations, we are more of that fully integrated. It looks a little bit different from
Hmm.
client to client of what that fully integration looks like. So.
Yeah. What do you find? I know you mentioned some firms are more design oriented and
Mhm.
having that knowledge base. Do you find there's a similar struggle that firms are having in their documents and their staff?
I think sometimes it comes down to, like, we primarily use Revit. That is like our bread and butter. And there's some clients that are like new to utilizing Revit that they don't know how to use it effectively. So when we get into these models, mind you, we are also positioning ourselves to seeing how multiple firms are utilizing this program in very many different ways. And it aligns us to see like what's working and what's not working. And when we get into models that, clients have been using it, but they're still using filled regions everywhere. They're not modeling accurately. We're like, what is going on? So it positions us into a way of where we can help them be like, hey, there's a better strategy and a better workflow. Are you open to this? But then there's other firms that their templates are like 2005 that had just been updated every year, but haven't actually. So again, it's, we're tailored to what they're using, but when we work in it for so long, we're able to make suggestions, like,
Mhm.
because we've seen workflows in so many different ways.
Yeah, or just taking the time to update templates and things
Yeah.
is equally a bottleneck because everybody is running around trying to be billable and get their project work done. That when it's not billable firm structure wise, some things can get left to the wayside, like the
Yeah,
templates
and
you
it just
mentioned.
fall through the cracks, and then, oh my gosh, some of them I would get into, but it's nice though, and like they see, what we're able to do, and there'll be times that I'll be pulling together like a legend, and I'm like, why is it like this, and I'll ask the project manager, do you mind if I do it a more efficient way? Oh yeah, that's fine. Go ahead and do whatever works best for you guys. Like, so it's nice that they're very open and they understand. But too, I think having efficient workflows is very important too for how we work and, having the efficiency across the board.
Yeah, and I think there's sometimes a lack of training. Like I learned
Yes.
Revit in high school, so like the
Hmm.
amount of time I have towards my experience in Revit is, well, now it's less than double my career, but like going in and telling people, oh, I've got X number of years of experience. And they're like, what? Like the
Yeah.
math doesn't add up. But when I get in a model and everybody's using filled regions and lines for things, I'm like, the point of this is it's modeled and you've got clients wanting things clash free
Yeah.
and to be able to instantly walk through a model in a heartbeat. Like if I see
Yeah.
one more rubber base on a wall that is a line rather than an actual modeled piece that takes 5 seconds to do,
Yeah.
because the second you move it, it's okay, well,
Yeah.
now this line's floating around. So now you have to fix 10 sheets rather than just
Right.
one or make a quick
Yeah.
move. And it's
Yeah.
the lack of training there sometimes can
Hmm.
kind of hinder a firm. And if you don't keep up with it,
Yeah.
it can pull the whole firm back in terms of how long it takes to get something done, changes, or
Yeah.
issues in the field.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think too, like, that's a very good point because, a lot of firms they hire because they need immediate help, right? And it's not to train. And I think this takes us in a different direction of like, what universities are helping students with in terms of, you know, for the future of working in firms. I know both of us went to Kent State, so I can speak to this, but like, we didn't really learn Revit at Kent. We didn't learn. It was all kind of like self-taught, right?
Hmm.
And when I went and started working for an architecture firm, they were asking me what all I knew. And I was like, oh, I know how to do this. But when you get into something that is done by an architecture firm, what you know means nothing,
Yep.
like after college. And I really feel like I had to take the time to YouTube to teach myself outside of work hours so that I could fully understand how to utilize the program effectively and efficiently while working in the real world, but I see that there is a lack in between the education and the business. The education's relying on the business is relying on the get education, and it's just like, where is that medium ground of like these very powerful tools that are shaping our future? And someone has to go to college, but they also have to have the experience. So
Yep.
where do they have the time to learn for these tools, and I think too that is like a true bottleneck too in our industry. So,
Yeah, because I remember professors trying to push me out of using Revit. And I'm like, but why?
mhm.
All these firms are using Revit. Granted, I didn't want to go to a firm that was using AutoCAD. I interned at one and I was
Yep.
like, nope, because I know this other
Yes.
tool. And
Yes.
there are other 3D modeling tools
Yes.
like ArchiCAD and Vectorworks that
Mhm.
professionals can use, but it always blows my mind that in school you don't like try all of the 3D modeling softwares. So you get at
Mhm.
least a piece of information on each. Because I
Yeah.
remember using Rhino to make really unique forms and furniture, but then
Yep.
I could import into Revit and it's got all the sheets and everything I need right away that I don't have
Mhm.
to do weird cuts and things like
Yep.
that. So it's,
Yep.
if you know the different softwares, the more tools you have coming out of school. And I know you went to Kent, you had your architecture and interior design
Yes.
degree. For anybody who
Yeah.
doesn't know my education path, my roommate was in the interior design program at Kent.
Yeah.
So I kind of got to see both sides, and I always felt that the interior designers at Kent were more ready for an architecture firm whenever it
Mm-hmm.
comes to drafting and softwares and what they're able to
Mm-hmm.
model and build and practice. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
the architecture program, it was just very loose, open-ended, very
Mm-hmm.
conceptual, even
Mm-hmm.
though we still had a technical eye back then. But I felt like if I had those 2 degrees and coming out of school, yeah, to a design firm, my architecture portfolio may look a little bit better from a design perspective. But when I would talk to like a small firm owner, if I look at portfolios, it's like, no, I can tell the interior designer knows how to model and Revit as much
Mm-hmm.
as, we can teach different designs. So
Mm-hmm.
how did you find that experience, since you've got kind of both experiences at Kent?
Yeah. So that experience is very interesting. I will have to agree though. I mean, oh my gosh, I remember my senior thesis project for interior design. Yeah, I mean, I had to know and figure out everything of Revit, how to apply materials, how to render, how to model, how to demo, like all of it. Like I had to know that program inside and out. I remember the girls and I, we would be up in studio until 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and we all like learned from each other. Like there was
Mm-hmm.
one girl that was very technical and always be like, hey, ask her how to do that. And we would always just have to feed back and forth. But the gap that I had in between interior design and then going back, I honestly really struggled in the architecture program because I am very technical minded. I am very practical. So going back to obtain an architectural degree that was very conceptualized frustrated me because I'm like, I had to self teach myself right now, and my head was spinning. So I would go to work 4 or 5 hours in the morning, and then I would go to architecture school. So in the morning, I'm working Revit, very practical, very, everything. And then I'd have to change my brain and be like very conceptualized, teach myself Rhino, have curvatures, have all this stuff, but it's not practically
Mm-hmm.
buildable. Like, so I really, really struggled. I feel like I would always challenge my professors because I'm like, I've been working in this industry in architecture firms now for 5 years. And what I know and what I'm learning here, what am I really gaining? In
Mm-hmm.
the studios, I can speak to the studios. But I think what helped was it helped my brain think outside of the box, which helps you in the more technical side of things. So yeah, it was a true struggle. Like I rather sit through 6 hours of structural systems than that, studio classes, because I was like, I'd rather just go back to work and do what I know because this is just like pulling hair. But I would have to agree. Like, I feel like, you know, not every university is set up like that. I think it just really depends. But I do think that, I don't know what some of these students are doing when they get out of their education, because it's like the tools aren't utilized the way that they need to be utilized in, the professional world. So,
Yeah, because it's definitely problem solving and thinking out of the box. But I
mhm.
think you and I are very similar as we are more
Yeah,
technically oriented professionals. And sometimes the ideas I was getting pushed towards, I'm like, that doesn't even make any sense.
yes,
Like,
I
you
know.
can't build that. And I didn't even have the experience coming back to school. I'd probably be even more frustrated and be like, why do
Yeah.
I need this degree and spend this money at this point when I know
Mhm.
more from being in an
Mhm.
office and actually building and constructing things?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's the real challenge. And I think, I have a cousin that is going to school for architecture, and we talk about this all the time. He's using Revit, and I'm like, just keep using it. Keep pushing yourself to use it. It's going to set you up for success. I think utilizing, like, I mean, CAD's very old. I do not touch CAD anymore either. Like, that's where I'm like, I don't touch CAD. But I think like tools like Rhino or, all those other 3D ones, they're very good for the conceptualization and just exploring. But to utilize a program that could be beneficial for you to have in your tool belt when working in the professional world, I think is so much more helpful.
Yeah, I know when I talk to students, I'm like, what would a B in studio mean to you? Nothing.
Yeah.
So if
Yeah.
it's your professor won't give you an A because you want to use Revit or another program, like, I'd rather see Revit in your portfolio when trying to hire
Mhm.
somebody, because again, we're hiring for help and not training.
Right.
So if you're just trying to mold professionals that are problem solvers and
Mhm.
not practical help, that's then where this struggle in the firm
Mhm.
staffing comes in, because it's great.
Mhm.
I not only have to teach you how to build something
Right.
and constructability, but I have to also teach you the tool itself to
Mhm.
put it together, and also sit in 8 to 10 hours of meetings a day. Like, there's
Yep.
not enough day for that project architect PM level to do it all.
Right.
You
Right.
almost need somebody that's just training their staff
Right.
full
Yeah.
time, and that's it.
But then that's money to the firm, right? And
Exactly.
it's like, so or you're it's like a gamble. It's like, okay, this person's portfolio is amazing. They do amazing work, but what if they don't understand constructability, or it's
Hmm.
like, I mean, it's like a gamble for, firm owners, but then again, I think like they are so desperate for help that they'll do whatever they have to do. But then, like you said, it's like they need someone specific to be able to train them. But if you're project managers, project architects, project executives are in meetings all the time, coordinating, like who is that person dedicated to teach them, and not only to teach them, but every firm operates so differently with the
Hmm.
tool. The same tool is operated and utilized in so many different ways. Like we see that first-handedly. So it's very interesting.
Yeah. Is there one, I guess, tool pet peeve you have that like firms keep utilizing wrong?
Um I think mine is like, if you are a large firm and you are utilizing Revit and still using, like we talked about, the lines and the filled regions, when you can just like, it's hard. It's just like we could have made this so much quicker. Or like if you have, floor plan or, reflective ceiling plan, you can typically we would just like tag the material. But if it's text floating everywhere, like why? Like I think my biggest pet peeve is not utilizing a program to its potential.
Hmm.
BIM is very powerful and it can do a lot of things, but you have to teach it what to do. It's not going to do it for you. So part of me is like, if firms are like, I want it to look like this, tell me what you want it to look like, and I will tell it what to do to produce that type of information. That's what it's there for. But if you're utilizing, model in place everywhere and a wall shifts, and then you're shifting this, and then if you would just build um, parametric family that can like move, like, I mean, it's 2 minutes versus 20 minutes to manipulate. So I just think not utilizing the tool in general to its full potential is a big pet peeve of mine. But I also feel that we're in a position that we can teach and like guide our clients to also utilize it in the correct way so that it sets up their future projects for success.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Because I know I've asked questions of professionals and like, hey, how does our firm do it?
yeah,
Versus what I've done in the past, doing some cross checks, and the answers you get, I'm like, that's not right. But
right.
it's like, I have the knowledge base of working somewhere else. I'm like, that is not the right answer. And I'm going to go find
Yeah.
it. But it's, if you don't have that experience to question it, then you
Mhm.
just keep doing things wrong.
Yeah,
And it's
exactly.
like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, what are you doing? Like, you don't have to do this.
It's like they think it's right in the moment, but if things change, you're up for a more disaster. And I think that's the hard part. So,
Yeah, or I always joke it's doing it the wrong way, even though sometimes it may be quick. So if
yeah.
I have somebody come to me with a question and it's, hey, I need to do this, and if there's something wrong with the model and it's getting messed up, but we're printing today, I'm
Yeah.
like, this is the wrong way to do it, but we're going to do it because our deadline's in 2 hours.
Right.
But
Yeah.
then after the deadline, we're going to go spend the time to go fix it, to go do
Yep.
it the right way.
Yep, exactly. Sometimes in those deadline moments, you have to do that. But again, it's one of those like mark it down on a piece of paper so you don't forget about it. So as soon as it's sent to the printer, you're getting back in that model and you're correcting it.
Exactly. Because sometimes it's
Yeah.
speed and you just got to get it done.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
But I also wanted to touch on the business side since you're learning how to
Oh,
be a
yeah.
business owner. So, do you have any advice for professionals starting their own business within the AEC industry?
I honestly just think it's tweaking. I mean, the industry is evolving so rapidly, and I think, there's so many different ways to do things. Everyone operates so differently. Pricing, everyone prices completely differently. Like that's a whole conversation of its own. But I think it is just really adapting and shifting to what works best for you. Like I feel like when I first started, I was like, oh, but how's this going to work best for them? And I wasn't thinking, like, I started this for my family. I didn't start this to like completely help everyone else. Like I did, but at the same time, like I was hurting then,
Hmm.
So I think it's just making decisions of what works best for you. And if it's not working, shift. I mean, really, that's all you have to do is just take action, shift, and things will happen as they need. Yeah, it's just, yeah.
Has there been, because the benefit of being a small firm or even
Hmm.
solopreneur is that boat, I always explain it as like the boat is more of a speedboat and you can twist and pivot and experience things a lot
Hmm.
quicker than a really large firm that could be a giant aircraft carrier, and to get
Right.
them to turn 90 degrees takes a lot longer than a speedboat.
Yeah.
And so has there been a big pivot you were surprised about from when you started versus where you are now?
Yeah. I mean, we basically, when I first started, I mean, it was just me. It was like thinking about myself and like my business expenses were very low, because it was only me and, I was priced appropriately, but I think I was undervaluing myself because I was just trying to hit this number that worked best for firms, right?
Hmm.
But I was still having to work 40-hour weeks with that price. And as we kind of grow and have evolved, it's like I have such a skill set and experience that it's value based pricing at this point. Like the amount of experience and the amount that I've been exposed to both on site in the field, working for different types of architecture firms or just like being that person that's always been doing production. It's like I have gained so much, understanding of different things. And then to add an entire team to that, our pricing model has completely shifted 180 in the past year. And I think that's because of, just seeing what the industry needs and tailoring to that and just knowing that business expenses go up with that. And it's just setting yourself up for success rather than, where I was a year ago. It's just, like I said, I never thought that this is where it would be, and it is. And I feel very confident in what we are and where we're going. And, the right firms and the right individuals will fit to that. And if they're not, that's okay. Not everyone is the right fit for it. So,
Yeah, but undervaluing yourself is
mm-hmm,
such a common theme, regardless if people are starting a firm in the very traditional way
mm-hmm,
versus how you're doing it. Because just talking professionals, it's, hey, the first year they way undersold themselves because they're either
mm-hmm,
trying to prove their worth because it's a new name, or they
mm-hmm,
haven't been on that side of pricing themselves out and pricing
mm-hmm.
it in a way that you don't have to work 40 hours behind a screen, because you do also have to go get more work and have that
Mhm.
flexibility. So it's definitely not your own to
Yes.
worry about the value structure.
Yeah, and I think, when I first started, I only thought about like my own time, right? And now with having a team, it's like I have a team that has capacity. It's not just me. And so maybe it's not having pricing right just to make sure that we have work. Like I want to make sure that we're aligned with our clients. They see our value and don't see us as like stomping a bridge,
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like there's so much that we can provide value to in so many different ways that it doesn't have to be just this, hey, production, documentation. Like there's so many other things that we can bring insight to that's really where it's at.
Yeah. Are you pricing to firms at an hourly rate, or have you
So we
changed that
are
structure?
Yeah, so we are now shifting into a subscription-based model. And I did not know what that ever looked like. And now that I kind of know more about it and kind of what that looks like, what it does is shows how EF Designs has capacity and for, what type of assistance do our clients need. That is something that has been very challenging is, some clients want us to be fully integrated, take it over, like have the engineering meetings, have, all of that. But then there's some clients that are like, no, we just want you to do the modeling aspect of it. Or there's clients that are like, hey, here's red lines. So it's been really hard to decide and decipher like what does that look like. So
Mm-hmm.
moving forward, we have a three-tier subscription base, but then we're also providing a project-based fee. So basically, what that is for firms that may not need that 4-month commitment on projects. They just have a quick project that they want. But what's nice though is like, yes, we have our drafters working on that, but they are supported by the senior level that we have on our team. So it keeps the price down, but yet you still get the quality of the work based
Mm-hmm.
on a project-based fee. So it's kind of tailoring to what, we're seeing is needed in the industry as a whole.
Yeah, and it's not even sometimes about the cheapest route. Sometimes it's
Hmm.
just you don't have the staff. It's like I would love to hire to get this job done. So it's,
Yeah.
the financial aspect on a firm. It's like they're already getting paid for it from the client, and it's just making sure that they're putting out the best quality work that they can.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. Yep.
But I know the subscription model has been a newer one that I've talked with professionals, and just a different way to offer our services. So,
Yeah.
like, instead of us being hourly to a university or a larger client, like, firms could go a subscription model to a larger
Hmm.
client. It's, hey, we're here for you if you need it for those little tiny projects you just need to fly through. But
Yeah.
at least I feel our industry just straps us down too much whenever everybody's so weird at just about being hourly, and it's
Yeah.
making sure charging hour by hour. I'm like, but if you do that, you're not gaining anything. Like, we have value behind our
Right.
knowledge.
Right.
So it's quicker for you to draft something now in 5 hours versus what your 5 hours of drafting was when you got out of school.
Right, exactly. And that's, part of what I feel like I'm trying to educate the, people that are coming to us is like, hey, if you want a freelancer, if you want someone that just came out of school, yeah, they may be, I don't know, 40, 50, $60 an hour, but it's going to probably take them amount of time and back and forth with you. Whereas if you paid a premium pricing with us, we are 2 steps ahead of what's needed and we can
Hmm.
just get it done in a fraction of the time. So really it's like, do you want to pay double the price, double the time, or do you want to pay, a flat fee or a higher hourly rate to get it done in, X amount of time. So it's, some people just look at that number and they're either like sticker shocked or
Hmm.
they look at that number and like, oh, that's good. But they don't realize what else comes with that. So,
Exactly, because there is value, not to say students shouldn't go for
right.
architecture as a career, because there are still great
Hmm.
career paths with getting that education and growing and learning about it, because then you
Hmm.
can create businesses like you did to, hey, there's a
Yeah.
need, let's fill that need and get you there. So then
Hmm.
our industry can still grow.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's something too is like young individuals that, ask or we'll talk about, oh, I just want to work at home. It's like I got to where I am because I've had the amazing mentorship. I had the guidance. I had those working side by side with me to get the knowledge that I have. Like I didn't learn it in school. Like sorry, but I did not learn it in school. I think what school did for me was understand the grit and the grind that comes with understanding architecture. And there's so many different pathways of architecture. It doesn't have to be a one pathway thing. So I always encourage those that are younger that may want to work from home or, just do their own thing is like gain that experience first. Get
Mhm.
that mentorship from amazing mentors. And maybe that's someone that you just communicate with maybe once a week or something to have that person to like bounce ideas off or to go to for advice. Because I feel like that is something that is going to help equip them for the future better than just saying, "Hey, I just want to work at home. This is what I want." Like you need you
Yep.
need kind of that experience to be able to do that and to be successful in the long run.
Yeah, like I know I spent a lot of my early career on construction sites and I was in
Yes.
CA for a good chunk. So it's I always joke I learned more from contractors than I did
Yep.
from architects. So it's if I don't have a project site to get to and be
Mhm.
on site to problem solve and experience it and see it firsthand, then like I start
Mm.
getting that itch. I'm like, I can't sit behind a computer all
Yep.
day. Like
Yep.
I feel like I should have gone the contractor route so I could have been on site all the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there's that experience that's like you gotta make sure you ask for it, make sure you're getting on site, get
Mhm.
that experience you need so you can take your career wherever you want to take it in the
Right.
future.
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel like that's a little bit of where I'm at right now. I'm so used to being able to go on site all the time. And I'm like, I am not this person behind a desk. And that's part of the reason of, making a little bit of that shift to go local.
Mhm.
These firms can have people on site if they want. To learn from them. I think it's also like understanding that this doesn't have to just be a one-way service, right?
Yeah.
Like this could be a two-way service and it doesn't have to be just thinking like, oh, I need to outsource. Like, there's so much value from both sides that I think is a lot of leverage, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
And I could even see it like if your boots on the ground and a firm has a
mhm.
project that's not local to them, but you've got staff that's local, it's hey, you could go jump on site for a
Yep,
day and it's just the same thing as the
yep,
drafting work. If rather than trying to hire somebody salaried full time for a project and
mhm.
then once the project's done, it's okay, what do you do now? Are you going to keep that person in the books and have them be remote or are you letting them go? So,
Right, exactly. And I think sometimes, just thinking back to the firm that I worked at for so long, they hired to keep. That's what they did.
mhm,
But I think a part of that is that limits, right? Because if they don't have, and I don't know what it looks like, but if they don't have a big backlog, then they're hesitant to hire because they don't know. So it's like they don't take on more projects because they're not sure if they'll have the individuals. So it's kind of like that fill of the gap to see kind of what your backlog looks like in the next year or a few months or whatever to kind of infill. And who knows, you may love working with us and we might be that long term partner that you can stay lean and not have to, hire in house
mhm.
for the sole fact of having someone in house.
Or
So,
hire too quickly because if you're trying to hire
right.
for somebody to keep, it takes each firm is so different that you can't
Yeah.
it's not gonna be the right fit for everybody, so you'd hate to just hire individuals that don't seem like the right fit because you need a body to
Right.
get something done. Or the
Exactly.
opposite, you go after all these proposals and you get hits on all of them, and you're like, "Okay, well, our hits ratios have only been at 40%, and then the last
Yep.
couple of months, they're up at 75%." Now you're like, "Well, crap." We
Yep.
weren't
Yep.
planning on
I
winning
know,
all this
like
work,
what
which
now?
it's a
And
great
I
thing, but staff is
yeah.
staff.
Yeah, and I think too, like, I noticed that a lot of the firms, like, I mean, just in general, like the job, like saturation right now on both ends of trying to find a job and then also landing jobs and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, while firms are in this midst of waiting for, job applicants go through all of that, like you can hire us in just to, we can start like tomorrow. You know what
Mhm,
I mean? Like we can ask the questions, we can move and continue it versus waiting and that hiring process and the onboarding process takes so long sometimes for certain firms that, if they want someone to stay there long term, I mean, they can throw them into the fire if they want, but we're expected to be thrown into the fire.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's what we're here for. So it's just kind of looking at different perspectives of how, outside of traditional hiring or even just like traditional firms and collaborations, like we're definitely like that partner for the architecture firms to work with. Um, yeah.
Yeah, And I always like wrapping up my podcast with this final question. And
Yeah.
it's, what advice do you have for young professionals just starting their careers?
Oh my gosh. Just have fun, honestly. I think, you gotta have fun and, all-nighters are okay if you're with all of your friends and you're all doing it together. But I think, just take everything by a grain of salt because I look back being 10 years now that I graduated from one of my degrees, like I miss it, just I miss working with a bunch of my close friends. Like they become your family and live and learn through that college experience. And moving into the professional world is going to look different, but just take everything as a learning experience. It doesn't need to be, an all or nothing kind of look. Just learn as you go and keep an open mind, and you'll get to wherever you're going.
Yeah, that is fantastic advice. And
Yes.
if there's any listeners that want to get a hold of you for EF designs to help them on their projects, is there a good way to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I have a link on my Instagram, and you can go there and fill out the lead form, and it will prompt me to send you kind of all about EF Designs, and we can hop on a call and discuss what they're looking for and how we can best fit what they need for their firm.
Yeah, and I will grab that link and I can put it in the show notes. So it's one less step for everybody. So thank you so much, Erin, for taking the time to speak with me. And it's been great to see how we can offer architectural services in a different way. And
Mhm.
there's more options than just the traditional path to practice and have fun in our career.